welcome to or back to Miss Craft's Let's Layer. If you are new here or you have a memory like mine, I am Barbie. I am a multi-crafter. I do all sorts of different things, but mainly on this channel you're going to see knitting, crochet, sewing, and like today, some hot takes. So if that is something that you are interested in, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Please help me reach my lofty goal for the end of the year. We'll see. I'm hoping. As I said, today is a hot take. Could be a hot take. Some may agree with me, some may not agree with me. This is my video, and this is my opinions on the situation. So this hot take is going to get its own video because I think it's going to be a little bit longer of a video or a too long to put into another video. That's what I'm trying to say. Anywho, so this topic has come up quite a bit from the opposite perspective. That's fine. But I did want to come in here with a different perspective and also tell you why I don't externally test my patterns. And if you stick around to the end, you'll find out what I do instead. So I have been a pattern writer now I dabbled a bit about 20 years ago, and about 10 years ago is when I started actually selling my patterns. Now, when I joined the pattern designer force, I had, or club, whichever way you want to put it, I had been naive in my thinking that you had to externally test your patterns. Maybe this has quite a few hot takes. Maybe. Anyway, so when I started writing my patterns, I was under the impression that you had to externally test your patterns in order for them to be legit. Now, I had tested a few patterns or had patterns tested. And those didn't go maybe 75% smoothly. So I have, as a pattern designer and testing my patterns, I have had the rainbow of different testers. So I've had the testers that are absolutely perfect on all of the time frames. Love to take a bunch of pictures. If there's a problem with the pattern, they take a picture or they send a screenshot of right where the pattern problem is, and they proceed to circle where the problem is, say, hey, this is what I found, this might need to be fixed. All fine and good. Then I have had the people who have either completely ghosted me, taken pattern and ran, or I have had people who have not had the skills or seemingly not had the skills in order to make what I was describing. Might have been like poor communication. It was a lot of, with these, a lot of, hey, this is a problem. I don't know this. What do you mean? And kind of stuff. And so I had kind of put my pattern writing on the back burner because the fact that I figured I'll just make what I make and I can sell it type of deal, which also gets you a very large stock of unsold items that take up your good part of your craft room. I need to get back into craft shows. At that point in time, I'm like, maybe pattern writing, and such. And I continued to write patterns and just not release them. So I had a nice little notebook going of a bunch of different patterns. I also found that the pattern call, if you do not use the typical like Ravelry group or whatever in order to find your testers, other social media pattern calls are just gross to me. I want you to subscribe, to comment, to like, and to share with somebody before I agree to let you test my pattern. And I do find that I believe that that is not even trackable. And I do believe that that is just gross. I didn't want to go that way to find pattern testers. And it's just the pattern testing thing was externally was not for me. Now, in this time, I had been writing a bunch of patterns that I had just been chicken scratch in my notebook. So, in my notebook, there was various amounts of different different stages of pattern. So that gets me into what I do instead of externally testing patterns. So I don't have the best memory. So I can sit and I can chicken scratch, which is the first step in my pattern writing. I chicken scratch. I have number, and and an abbreviation for a stitch pattern or whatever. And so I do that first, and then if I like the outcome of what I am doing, there's a bunch of scratch outs and rewrites, and then I come to the making the pattern so that it's kind of the rudimentary. It's not a refined pattern by any means. It does end up having no material list. It might have a size of a hook or needles written by the descriptive title to the pattern, not necessarily 100% named at this point in time, but descriptive. So, crochet Santa hat, sort of. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. So, as I am going through that pattern, I'm rewriting it, making the chicken scratch look better. Um, Things now have either a row or a round put in front of it, in front of the row of numbers or whatever. And so I'm making it look a little neater. So then for step 3, I put that pattern down and I go on to something else. So I am off doing other crafty things, whether it's another, if I'm working on a knit pattern, so to speak, I go and I either do a crochet pattern or I do some sewing or whatever. And I kind of tend to forget that I have a pattern that's even in that notebook. At which point in time, I go back to my notebook, whether it's a couple of weeks later, maybe even a month or two later, and I go back to that pattern and I go, I kind of want to make that again. Let's see if I can. And then at which point in time, I go over and I make every single row as I have written down. And if I have any problems with that, I write down a note. Hey, this is not right. Or, hey, I need to change this. Or I make the actual change in the pattern. And so then I end up making the pattern, put it down again. I've now refined it. And now at this point in time, I am also adding the material list. So from there, the material list gets what kind of yarn I'm using, a rough estimate. Well, at this point in time, not a rough estimate what materials I'm using. I may or may not have weighed the yarn to figure out the yardage used. Um, may or may not have. I know that I'm writing down the definite hook size or needle size that I used for the pattern, and at which point in time I finish the item, I put the item down, I close that notebook on that page, and I leave it again. Now, my memory, as I had stated earlier in this video, my memory is so bad and does not like to hold on to such things very long that when it comes to stitching and how I did things and everything, that when I come back to the pattern the third time, it's like I am coming back to nearly a new pattern to me. So I am running over, okay, so I need to use this amount of yarn. I'm using this yarn. Okay. So now I need to find the hook size. Here we go. If it's a crochet, knitting needles, if it's knitting, we all know this kind of jazz. But I have then come back to this pattern that is pretty much done. I have my notes written in it from previous. Read over the notes, and I'm acting as though I have never made this pattern before in my life. Brand new pattern. I'm reading over notes. I'm double checking numbers and all this. And I basically am my own pattern tester. So then I go over this again, make the item again, and at this point in time, if I find no errors in my pattern, then it goes into getting the cover page, getting its name officially, and then also then becoming the PDF that I am able to share with the world. So I don't believe that you need to have an external pattern tester. I hope that this hot take was, well, it was kind of as long as I thought it was going to be. But I hope that with this pattern, with this little blurb, that if you are a pattern designer and you are leery of putting out your patterns to testers for fear of being ghosted, for fear of being the person who gets an email 2 months later saying how horrible of a pattern designer you are because they did not get back to you as to their problems. It has happened. And so this is just a way that you can go about writing patterns and releasing patterns that does not involve external testing. May work for you, may not work for you. Like I said, I think that just social media pattern testing calls is just gross. Just gross. Now, do I say that I never externally pattern test? No. There are, I actually do have a pattern that is going to be coming up here soon that I am going to be doing a pattern tester, external pattern testing call. There we go. For um providing that it gets me through the second stage. I already know that it is kind of a more time inclusive, time intensive pattern. So I don't know how well I want to make that a bunch of times. However, I will probably still make it a bunch of times and then still have external pattern testers. But I am not saying I never pattern test externally. I'm just saying that for the most part, I prefer to do it myself. And yeah. So if you found this information helpful, which I do hope you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you have anybody in your life that is considering being a pattern designer, pass this on to them so then that way they know too that it is not a full requirement to have your patterns externally tested. It's helpful when it goes right, but if it doesn't go right, it's not a necessity. So, with that, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye.